Hi, I'm Megan, and welcome to the Intermish, the show where it's literally the length of an NHL intermission where we discuss teams, memes, trades, picks, and he really can't.
That's offside. You can't do that. What are you gonna do, Bash?
Alright, so anybody else this week suck? Okay. Yeah, a lot of us lost a lot of people. That was real sad. That was bad. Comment below if you lost a beloved fourth winger or a beloved franchise person like Boston did, to which this depresses me. They separated a boy and his rat. Screw you, Don Sweeney. Is it Don? I don't know. That is how little I care about Boston, but I care because I have friends. Shout out Bobby and the guys at PTP. Shout out you guys. For real. It is so windy. Okay, asterisks. I've had 2 hours of sleep. I had to be up at 7. I had to coach. It didn't go well. That's why my voice is like this and I look like this, but I'm still here for you. Anyway, Chicago, you better cherish him. And I mean cherish Joe Veleno. Much like Connor, I really don't get why he got the 10 minutes. 10 minutes is insane. To Boston, I know it's like going down in flames, babes, but just put your hands up, Maurice. It's more fun that way. I quoted fucking Madagascar. Where am I? Holy crap. Okay. So, basically, you would also think that, Josh Norris spending half of his time with Brady Tkachuk, Frankenstein's monster, not a lot, but enough, he would learn how to fight, but I guess not.
Gives a cross-check to Johansson. Meanwhile, there's a wrestling match between Norris and Edmondson, and then Tage Thompson comes over, throws the gloves off, and those two hit the ice quickly. But this isn't stopping, not yet. This is now turning into 5-on-5. Benson's
That I was called the Angel Reese of hockey commentary, which is really ironic because out of all the sports that I was excelling at in life, basketball wasn't one of them. I'm 5'5". This is my hockey stick. It is pink. Get over it. This is how tall I am. This thing is 78 inches. Nice. I am quite literally 5'5", but the hell if I didn't rebound the shit out of a ball. I took that Angel Reese comment a little personally because unlike her, I can rebound. Speaking of rebounds, apparently Mikko Rantanen will pull a me and use a Carolina team as a rebound from after being released by, I think, traded by Colorado. Have I mentioned I've had 2 hours of sleep and I'm about to get very drunk on an empty stomach for you guys? After being traded to Carolina, he looked at Rod and he said, "Yeah, I'm not playing for you." And he just sort of threw up the deuces and left after 4 games. And now he's with Dallas, which I hope he's happy there. But just so he knows, all my exes live in Texas, but you got to hang your hat in Tennessee, bud, if you really want to suffer. And then here are some of my favorite hockey images of the week, by the way. Okay, so it's St. Patrick's Day weekend. I'm very Irish, as is Ao Edibari, Barack Obama, especially Conan O'Brien, my Uncle Aaron, and my dad's entire side. Being dead serious, my papa literally looked at me and said, "Megan, we came here through Canada because we knew there would be traffic." But anyway, this is Tito's Vodka. Tito's, please sponsor me. And I'll be right back. This video will be edited very drunk. Anyway, so the Montreal Canadiens, the drunk history of the Montreal Canadiens, you need to understand this team is literally the original like it's the original in my opinion. So basically there was a guy named Ambrose O'Brien who was in the Windsor Hotel. Everything goes down at the Windsor Hotel. Like, we're talking hotel motel, Windsor Hotel, like not Holiday Inn. Hang on, someone liked something. Please follow. Anyway, so Ambrose O'Brien was 24 and he supported a bunch of teams. He was also coming as a representative for the ECHA franchise. They were going to apply. There were multiple of them that were also applying. There were 2 from Montreal and 1 from Cornwall. And O'Brien was just there for the Renfrew Creamery Kings, which predates the Sudbury Blueberry Bulldogs. Shout out Jared Kiso, man. But he was there. They also, side note, were the best, like, milk producing province. Like, they made apparently some, like, solid milk that was pasteurized and not raw. If you drink raw milk, you really should be, like, evaluated. Have fun with streptococcus meningitis or strep. Anyway, they were basically, like, O'Brien's team, Renfro, were basically, like, they were denied the opportunity to go challenge because they were a really good team. They were denied the opportunity to challenge the cup winners at the time. And they were, like, not allowed because they were a small town. And Ambrose was like, who's to say, like, the size of the town is the size of the talent? And that really pissed him off. And because they belittled him, and they kind of made fun of him. Like, they were like, oh, Ambrose. And it led to almost a couple of fights. But the meeting occurred that night. Meeting was at 9:30, room 135. It was the afters, essentially. They were talking about the salaries, the revenue, and the schedule. And so, at the time, another owner of a team was also being folded, unbeknownst to him. But they, like, forcefully closed, like, the Montreal Wanderers, who was owned by Patrick J. Doran. And they essentially, the board of directors, disbanded the ECHA, the Canadian Hockey League, the Canadian Hockey Association. And basically, Pat Doran looked over at Ambrose O'Brien and said, hey, don't you, like, have a bunch of other teams? And he was like, well, and Ambrose said, well, we have some that would support. Yeah, I mean, we support them. Because Ambrose O'Brien was very rich because of his father. Essentially, they had, like, a silver mine or a platinum mine or something like that that was really taking off in fashion. And so they had a bunch of teams. And he was like, yeah, we have, like, this was also in front of a bunch of press, by the way. So, like, everyone was just sort of sitting there. And Doran looks over at O'Brien and goes and says, don't you have, like, other teams? And Ambrose was like, I thought I had to burp. I don't. I'm great, by the way. Shout out Nikola Jokic. And he's like, yeah, we do. And Pat Doran goes, you have Haley Berry in front. He goes, you have Haley Berry. And he lists all these other teams in places that, are they still real? Like, are these places real? If they are still, please let me know. Because you never know. Places can get renamed. And so in front of a bunch of press things, he goes, you know what, Ambrose? I say we combine teams and we create a French-Canadian exclusive hockey team. And he, like, and it says he, like, sneakily, like, looked over and he goes, Les Canadiens. And this was in front of a bunch of press, and Ambrose was like, shit. So the team was essentially made out of these guys, one of which was a professional lacrosse player who really, like, he knew how to skate, but he didn't really know how to play the game. You gotta play the game to get the award. You gotta play the game or whatever. Their first game, by the way, this is important. They won, but at the end of like every like game, there would be an orchestra. There would be like a band. There was a house band. Think of it like the Roots, kind of like how they are for Fallon. And essentially they would play at the end of every game God Save the Queen. Lame. Their first like game went into overtime. It is also imperative that I mention to you, these people were chain smoking. I mean, what do they got to do? It was like 1907. Like nothing was going up but the rent and people's depression. But also the French, like Canadian people, were very slow to adapt to the game of hockey because there were very limited rinks in Montreal. There were like 2 of them. One of them was indoors and one of them, I think, was outdoors. But we'll get to that later. They were literally chain smoking, and they said, like, people were leaving, by the way, with, like, bruises and gash because sticks would go fly. Because, once again, it is the early 1900s, and people are getting sticks thrown out. Like, I mean, you know, like a Bauer, and, like, all these sticks were, like, coming at them. So, essentially, they were chain smoking. They said it was such a profound, like, haze essentially on the like through the stadium, like people couldn't see because everybody once again was puffing them like they were going out of style. They were unfiltered, honey. They were just trying to die of black lung because once again it's 1907 or whatever. What you got to lose? Pause. And how they, by the way, you were like, how did, like, people who wanted to go see couldn't see it, like, or heard about it? They set up a telegraph wire, and they, like, spread it out to, like, different cities, and they were, like, they were, like, doing that, essentially. And that was kind of how that first started, and they won their first game. People were, like, fanning out, you know, because they thought they would lose, but then they went back, and they were like, oh, no, we're in overtime, go, 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 go. Like, that kind of deal. I'm also breaking this up into senses of the beginning, the middle parts, and then now. It's also St. Patrick's Day weekend. And then shut up, Bobby. So, after Ambrose O'Brien and his father sold it, there was a guy, also, it was now the NHA. There was a guy, his name was Kennedy. It was the Kendall Kennedy era they put in. By the way, I got all my information from this book. I'm a Red Wings fan. I know the lore of a lot of teams, but apparently I don't. When in reality, I've been, like, in love with this sport since I was, like, a literal infant. Like, if you look at this picture... Anyway, we're getting off topic. This is why I need a sober person here. Anyway, so... basically... a guy who was a professional wrestler, essentially, you know, wrestling. His name was Kennedy or Kendall. There was a 2-era type thing happening, a name change. At this point, it's 1910, 1921 era. He wanted French Canadians only. He was like, bad bitches only. No, but like... it was a big thing in the Montreal French community that their team mainly be made up of French people. La France, which honestly, like, if I went to France, I'd probably want to go to Monaco. I'm learning French so I can go to the Monaco Grand Prix one day, and I want to see Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc went at home. Anyway, if you want to send me there, hit me up. And they got more love, by the way, from the French community because, I mean, that was their heart and soul, essentially, Montreal. They were all a bunch of French people who really hated the British. And truly, that's so real. I'm Irish. I also hate the British, except for, like, maybe 5. But yeah, Kendall and Kennedy, like, the community was, like, really impassioned about getting... the community, not Kendall or Kennedy, was really impassioned about, like, getting... French only, Irish need not apply. Oh, there it is. And so he said, you know what? We're 6.5 Frenchmen out there. And that was like really the last notable thing he said, but he said a lot more. And then during the 1916-1917 era, they had already won some Stanley Cups by then, by the way. A little thing happened over in Europe called World War One, because, you know, Franz Ferdinand wanted to go out and someone said, "Take me out." That was such a good song. Oh my god. That's what my honors history teacher played when we learned about it. On our way out of class, he played Franz Ferdinand, "Take Me Out." Such a good song. If you've never heard it, you should probably look it up. Anyway, basically, like, everybody was losing players because there were divisions of battalions that were made up of athletes. And, you know, it was during the war and mustard gas was happening because those dastardly evil Germans, who surely wouldn't make the same mistake again of, like, going to war with the rest of the world, would, like, you know, learn their lesson. But anyway, teams were down a bunch of men. A lot of franchises had to fold, but not yet. They were kind of like careening at the end. So World War I was happening, and that's when the game kind of changed. See, it was always like, the thing had always been played east-west or whatever. It then changed to like, no, it was always west-east or east-west. I don't know. I wrote this down because, like, I want actual information. But it changed, basically. And a new bombshell entered the villa, and on November 10th, 1917, at the Windsor Hotel, that diva, the NHL was born on November 26th. That's when they had the meeting. And then Montreal wins their second cup. That's when really things in the NHL started to form. We have actually at this time the original 6 showing up. Like, there were the Rangers, the Detroit Cougars, the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Boston Bruins. And they all met once again at the Windsor. In 1931, World War II was happening, and the Spanish influenza, and they lost Kendall and/or Kennedy. It was a really sad time. Like, they were losing people. Like, teams folded because they had no more people. On top of that, an arena burned down, and so they had to use like a minor league team stuff, and the Montreal Wanderers were like, well, tap out. It was good while it lasted, guys. The Wanderers also represented a lot of like the English people in Montreal, so like everybody was like, oh, you know, like they were really just happy, I guess. After World War II, a little guy named Selke showed up. Not the dress company, this guy. He built an empire, but you know, sometimes you gotta well, sometimes Selke had to work a little so he could ball a lot, and he built an empire. Like, he literally he got the Selke trophy. They also at this time had introduced the Prince of Wales trophy. They had the Campbell Bowl. They had all these things, and they were basically beaten in, I think it was Toronto or it was Boston. Once again, I am intoxicated. They basically were humiliated, and he goes, the Montreal Canadiens will never be humiliated again. And he was like really impassioned about it. And then they created the farming system, which was like a minor league team. They had then, who, I'm going to use this picture, Connor Bedard, for reference. This was an 18-year-old boy. This child, quite frankly, this child should be very grateful that his father didn't die, because the John Mulaney joke of, well, if your dad died, you took over his job. So Jean Bellevue should count his lucky stars. He was 18. He wouldn't sign with anybody, and like no matter how many people that courted him or like tried to give him the old razzle dazzle, nobody could get him to sign. And so Selke says, I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. Italian. And like he was kind of like the godfather, so they tried to court him via his father, and they gave him all the money, and they said, don't sign anything yet, come play for us in Montreal. And so he did, at the Montreal hotel. They also, I think that was the year they beat Boston or something along the line. Boston really wanted him too. He was a big deal in Boston. They built that whole game based around Je ne believe you. Also, if my French is bad, I'm sorry. I'm drunk. Je m'appelle Megan. Je tout. Je ici. J'aime. I don't know. And then I'm skipping a bunch, but now it's 1971, 1979. And in 1972, a guy named Pollock broke because he said, hey guys, are you trading me? And they said, dude, there's not going to be like this league. Not now, not forever. Because it was also the time of the Hartford Whalers, I believe. And then like he hung up and something like that happened. But he broke the monopoly that essentially the NHL had created when the fall of the Western teams in Canada had happened. And there was Bobby Orr, and I'm skipping a bunch of chapters. I'm very drunk. And like in 1980 and in 2001, those eras were really like Montreal's golden years by David Bowie, if you will. However, now they are, I'm going to be honest, I really do have a soft spot for the Montreal Canadiens. Not because of my deep love for Arbor-Jack-I or IJack or, I've heard it both ways. I'm an idiot. Cole Caulfield, who I genuinely think, if any guy in the league, other than the people that I like and I think are a good guy, Cole Caulfield is probably one of those guys. On top of, like, Patrick Laine, and really, truly, that league, that team is so special and so significant to the NHL because they were really the first, and they survived so many, like, things. They survived World War I, the Spanish influenza, World War II. They survived, like, the plague. They survived everything. And they celebrated 100 years in, like, the early 2000s. And they're going through what was, I believe, a century's worth of growing pains. And now, basically, right now, it's not the best. The Canadiens, they're not doing what everyone in Montreal thinks they should be doing. But I think, honestly, if they keep trading the way that they do and they keep drafting the way that they do and they put their faith in the right people, I really do believe this opinion, by the way, that they're going to be the one, not Toronto, not Winnipeg, not the Senators, not the, which, by the way, the OG, Montreal hated Boston, by the way. They were enemies. The rivalry goes, decades deep. They also hated Ottawa, which, I mean, babes, everyone hates Ottawa. They also really wanted Bobby Orr, too, which, I mean, Bruins really, you can tell I'm very quickly losing the plot. This is a terrible history, by the way. If I've done a terrible job, let me know and I'll do this, sober. But, I mean, entertainment content. I took 2 shots on an empty stomach. What do you want me to do? But I really think that Montreal will be the one to bring the cup back to Canada. Winnipeg, I know you look really, really good this year. But, I said you would make it to second round. But, I really do think it will be Montreal because it would only be right that it would be the first team to survive all of that and be technically they predated everybody because they were the Renfro Creamery Kings, the Sudbury Blueberry Bulldogs. And no shit. They would, we would come full circle. And I always root for underdog teams like San Jose, and Montreal. But they have a lot of really bright young talent. And I think if they keep at it with the bright young talent and the right level of veteran presence, I really do think Montreal can get out of the hole that they have dug themselves in the past couple of years. I think it's just a matter of consistency. having everything go right. And I don't know. I really do. J'aime. This isn't terrible French, but j'aime. Anyway, I love Montreal. I love the French people. I love everybody. I really want them to like make a comeback. I have 19 seconds. I have quickly lost the plot and everything. This is gonna be terrible. This is terrible. All of this is terrible. I'm really sorry. I will do a more in depth, but like you try to like get everything under like 20 minutes. But they won so many cups. Like they have 21. And it's just I would like to see them bring home 22. As much as I would also love to see my Red Wings make the playoffs. Pull it together, guys. Anyway, please follow the Intermish on Twitter. I'm really tired of it being like porn bots. I'm gonna go take a shower now because I smell like outside because I coached for 3 hours today. Anyway, hopefully I'll see you guys next week. Like I said, subscribe, whatever. Don't tell me I'm the freaking Angel Reese of the NHL commentary. Like, bitch, please. Anyway, bye.